The moment Eliza Morgan asked me to be her fake husband, I knew my life would never be the same. What I didn't expect was how her 6-year-old daughter would look at me with hope in her eyes, or how my own son would finally start smiling again. If you've ever wondered if pretending to love someone could lead to the real thing, stick around. This is our story, messy, complicated, and more real than any arrangement should be. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected love and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe for more heartfelt stories that remind us sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the most unexpected arrangements. Absolutely not, I said, staring at my boss across her immaculate desk. The morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, illuminating the desperation in her eyes. Eliza Morgan, CEO of Morgan Enterprises, 34 years old, and apparently insane, clasped her hands together. Please, Noah. I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate. I ran a hand through my disheveled hair. Single parenthood hadn't been kind to my appearance, but I'd always prided myself on maintaining boundaries between my personal and professional lives. You want me to pretend to be your husband for a year? That's crossing every line imaginable. I know how it sounds, she said, her usual commanding presence softening. But my grandmother is dying. She's old-fashioned and has been begging to see me settled before she goes. The inheritance isn't just money. It's the family estate where I grew up, where my daughter feels at home during our visits. I thought of my own 5-year-old son, Theo, who still asked about the home we'd shared with his mother before she'd walked out on us 18 months ago. So lie to her. Tell her you're married. She wants to meet him, you. She wants to know her great-granddaughter will be taken care of. Eliza's voice cracked slightly. I've built this company from nothing, but family legacy matters to her. If I don't fulfill the marriage clause in her will, everything goes to my cousin who's been waiting to dismantle everything my parents built. I leaned back in my chair, studying the woman who'd given me a chance 3 years ago when no other marketing firm would hire a newly single father who needed flexible hours. Why me? Because you're the only man I trust who understands what it means to put your child first. Because you're kind, Noah. And because I'll pay off your remaining student loans and set up a college fund for Theo. My heart stopped. That's over $200,000. I know exactly how much it is. Her eyes held mine. 1 year of your life for your son's future. For both our children's futures. I thought about the mounting bills, the way I'd been stretching every dollar since becoming Theo's only parent. And what exactly would this arrangement entail? Moving into my house, it has plenty of room. Accompanying me to family functions. Convincing my grandmother we're in love when we visit her in Vermont. So, we're sharing a bed? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. A flush crept up her neck. The house has 5 bedrooms, Noah. But for appearances when we visit my grandmother, possibly. I stood up, pacing the office. This is crazy. What about our working relationship? What about the company gossip? What about our kids? I've thought about all of that. You'd be promoted to creative director, you deserve it anyway, reporting to the board instead of directly to me. As for the children. Her voice softened. Lily has been asking for a sibling. And from what you've told me, Theo's been struggling since your ex left. The mention of my son's pain hit me like a physical blow. Theo had withdrawn so much since Sarah left, and child therapy wasn't cheap. A stable home, a female presence, a potential friend in Lily. 1 year, I said finally. And then a clean break that doesn't hurt our kids. Eliza nodded, relief washing over her face. 1 year. And Noah? Thank you. I should have known then that the line between pretending and feeling would blur faster than either of us could have imagined. The moving day came faster than I expected. I stood in Eliza's, our, driveway, staring up at the modern 3-story home nestled in one of Boston's most exclusive neighborhoods. My beat-up Honda looked comically out of place next to her sleek Tesla. "Daddy, is this really our new house?" Theo clutched his worn stuffed dinosaur, eyes wide with wonder. I knelt down to his level. "Just for a while, buddy. Remember how we talked about helping Ms. Morgan and Lily?" He nodded solemnly. At 5, Theo had already experienced enough upheaval to make him wary of change. Will the sad go away here? My heart clenched. He'd been asking about the sad, his term for the depression that had followed me since Sarah left, with increasing frequency. I hope so, buddy. I really hope so. The front door opened, and Lily came bounding out, her dark curls bouncing. "You're here. You're here. Mommy said you were coming today, but I didn't believe her because grown-ups always say, soon, when they mean never." Behind her, Eliza appeared, looking startlingly different from the power-suited executive I was accustomed to seeing. In jeans and a simple sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, she looked younger, softer somehow. "Sorry about the welcoming committee," she said with a small smile. "Lily's been counting down the days." Theo partially hid behind my legs, peering out at Lily with cautious interest. Lily stopped short, studying him with the direct gaze of a curious 6-year-old. "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I have dinosaur books in my room. And Mommy bought dinosaur sheets for your new bed." Theo's grip on my pants loosened slightly. "Really? Really, really? Come see." She held out her hand. I looked at Eliza, who nodded encouragingly. "Go ahead, Theo. I'll bring your things in." With one last glance at me, Theo took Lily's hand and followed her into the house, his dinosaur still clutched in his other arm. "Dinosaur sheets?" I asked as Eliza approached. She shrugged, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "You mentioned once that he was obsessed with them." "I pay attention to details, it's part of my job." "Thank you," I said, suddenly overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of the gesture. He hasn't been this excited about anything in months. Eliza's expression softened. "Lily hasn't stopped talking about having a brother since I told her about our arrangement." She glanced around the quiet street. "Speaking of which, we should probably act like this isn't the first time you've been here." Before I could respond, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me in a hug that caught me completely off guard. She smelled like vanilla and something citrusy, her body warm against mine. "The neighbors are watching," she whispered against my ear. "Mrs. Abernathy across the street is the biggest gossip in the neighborhood." I found myself returning the embrace, my hands settling awkwardly at her waist. "Is this how we're playing it? That we've been together for a while?" She pulled back slightly, her face inches from mine. "It's the only story that makes sense. Secret romance, whirlwind marriage once we couldn't hide our feelings anymore." "Very romantic," I said dryly, but found myself smiling despite the absurdity of the situation. "I'm an excellent pretender, Noah Parker," she said, her professional confidence returning as she stepped back. "By the time we visit my grandmother next month, no one will doubt we're madly in love." I grabbed my duffel bag from the car, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. "Let's just focus on getting through dinner without traumatizing our children." Her laugh followed me into the house, a sound I realized I'd rarely heard at the office. "Aim higher, Noah. We're going for happily ever after, even if it comes with an expiration date." The first few weeks of our arrangement were a careful dance of boundaries and adjustments. Eliza and I established routines that allowed us to maintain the charade while giving each other space. We drove to work separately but left together when company events required our joint attendance. At home, we coordinated schedules for the children, sharing meals but retreating to our separate bedrooms once they were asleep. What I hadn't anticipated was how quickly our lives would intertwine despite our best efforts. "Noah?" Eliza's voice called from the kitchen one evening, about 3 weeks after we'd moved in. "Can you come here for a second?" I found her standing at the counter, surrounded by ingredients, a cookbook open before her and a look of utter confusion on her face. "What's wrong?" I asked, rolling up my sleeves automatically. "Lily wants homemade pizza for her birthday tomorrow, and I..." She gestured helplessly at the flour-dusted counter. "I can run a multi-million-dollar company, but I can't make dough rise." I couldn't help but laugh at the frustration on her face. The great Eliza Morgan, defeated by yeast? She threw a dish towel at me. Not all of us had grandmothers who taught us to cook. "Here," I said, moving beside her. "It's all about patience and the right temperature." As I guided her through the process, our shoulders touching as we kneaded the dough together, I realized this was the most relaxed I'd seen her. A smudge of flour decorated her cheek, and without thinking, I reached up to brush it away. Her eyes met mine, and something shifted in the air between us. "Daddy! Eliza! Look what we made!" Theo's voice broke the moment as he and Lily raced into the kitchen, holding up handmade birthday cards covered in glitter. Eliza stepped back, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Those are beautiful. Lily will have the best birthday cards ever." Later that night, after the children were asleep and the pizza dough was rising in the refrigerator, I found Eliza in the living room, working on her laptop. "You should get some rest," I said, pausing in the doorway. "Tomorrow's a big day." She looked up, the blue light from the screen reflecting in her eyes. "I just need to finish this proposal. The Anderson account is going to be there in the morning," I finished for her. "Trust me, a 6-year-old's birthday party requires full energy reserves." A smile tugged at her lips. "Speaking from experience?" Theo's 5th birthday nearly broke me. 20 kindergartners hopped up on cake in a bounce house. I still have nightmares. She laughed, closing her laptop. "Point taken." She hesitated, then added, "Thank you, Noah. For the pizza help, for being so good with Lily, for all of it. It's what husbands do, right?" I meant it as a joke, but it came out more sincere than intended. Something flickered across her face, vulnerability, perhaps, before her professional mask slipped back into place. "Right. Good night, Noah." As I watched her climb the stairs, I realized that pretending to be a family was becoming less of an act with each passing day. The trip to Vermont to visit Eliza's grandmother came faster than either of us was prepared for. We'd spent the previous evening coaching each other on personal details a loving spouse would know, creating a believable history of our relationship. "Remember, we met at the company Christmas party 3 years ago," Eliza said as we drove through the picturesque New England countryside, the children dozing in the back seat. "You asked me to dance, and I initially refused because I don't mix business with pleasure. But my charm was irresistible," I continued with a grin. "And after months of me bringing you coffee and leaving notes on your desk, you finally agreed to dinner." She rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her smile. "You're enjoying this fiction a little too much. Hey, if we're going to lie to a sweet old lady, we might as well make it a good story." Her smile faded. "I hate deceiving her. But I can't lose the estate, Noah. It's the only place where Lily connects with her heritage, with the memory of my parents." I reached across the console and squeezed her hand before I could think better of it. "I know. We'll make it convincing, I promise." The warmth of her hand in mine felt more natural than it should have, and I reluctantly let go to return my hand to the steering wheel. Eleanor Morgan's estate was everything Eliza had described and more, a sprawling historic home nestled among maple trees ablaze with autumn colors. As we pulled up the long driveway, I felt a flutter of nerves. This wasn't just about convincing an old woman, it was about protecting what mattered to Eliza and Lily. "Ready, husband?" Eliza asked, her own anxiety visible in the tightness around her eyes. "As I'll ever be, wife," I replied, trying to inject confidence into my voice. Eleanor Morgan was waiting for us on the wide front porch, a tiny figure with Eliza's same piercing blue eyes and an aura of dignity that belied her fragile appearance. She was seated in a wheelchair, a nurse standing discreetly behind her. "Grandma!" Lily shouted, racing up the steps as soon as we parked. "My darling girl," Eleanor said, her face lighting up as she embraced her great-granddaughter. "And who is this young man?" Theo hung back, clutching my hand as we approached. "This is Theo," I said gently. "Theo, this is Mrs. Morgan, Lily's great-grandmother." "You can call me Grandma Eleanor," she said, her gaze sharp as she assessed him. "Any child in my great-granddaughter's life is family to me." Her attention shifted to me, then to Eliza, who had come to stand beside me. Without planning it, my arm slipped around Eliza's waist in a gesture that felt protective and possessive all at once. "So," Eleanor said, her eyes twinkling with intelligence. "This is the man who finally captured my granddaughter's heart. Come closer, young man. My eyes aren't what they used to be." I stepped forward, extending my hand. "Noah Parker, ma'am. It's an honor to meet you." She ignored my hand and instead reached up to touch my face, her fingers cool against my cheek. Kind eyes. Strong jawline. "He'll do, Eliza." Eliza laughed, the sound slightly strained. "I'm glad you approve, Grandma." "Well, don't just stand there. Come inside. Martha has prepared rooms for you all." Eleanor's gaze lingered on me. "I've put you and Eliza in the blue room. It has the best view of the mountains." As we followed her inside, Eliza whispered, "The blue room only has one bed." "So, we are sharing a bed," I murmured back, trying to ignore the way my heart rate picked up at the thought. "I told you it might come to this," she replied, her fingers intertwining with mine as we entered the house. "Just remember, it's only for show." But as her grandmother turned to watch us with those knowing eyes, I wondered if anything about this arrangement was just for show anymore. Dinner that first night was an exercise in careful navigation. Eleanor asked pointed questions about our relationship, our future plans, how we were blending our families. Each answer required a delicate balance of truth and fiction. "And when did you know you were in love?" Eleanor asked, fixing me with a penetrating stare over dessert. I glanced at Eliza, who looked momentarily panicked despite our preparation. In that instant, I decided to go off script. "It wasn't a single moment," I said, surprising myself with the sincerity in my voice. "It was watching her with Lily, seeing how she could run a boardroom and then come home and read bedtime stories with the same dedication. It was the way she remembered that Theo loves dinosaurs and made sure he had dinosaur sheets on his bed when we moved in together." Eliza's eyes widened slightly. "But mostly," I continued, unable to stop now that I'd started, "it was realizing that she made me want to be better, a better father, a better man. She made me believe in second chances when I'd given up on them." A silence fell over the table. Eleanor studied me, then nodded slowly. "Well said, young man." Later, as we prepared for bed in the blue room with its single queen-sized bed, Eliza was uncharacteristically quiet. "I can sleep on the floor," I offered, grabbing an extra pillow from the bed. "Don't be ridiculous," she said, emerging from the bathroom in silk pajamas that made me immediately avert my eyes. "The floor is hardwood. We're adults." The morning light filtered through the gauzy curtains of the blue room, casting a soft glow across the bed where I'd spent the night, painfully aware of Eliza's presence beside me. Despite our best efforts to maintain a respectful distance, sometime during the night, the space between us had vanished. I woke to find her head nestled against my shoulder, her hand resting lightly on my chest, her breathing deep and even. For a moment, I allowed myself to simply experience it, the weight of her against me, the subtle scent of her shampoo, the strange rightness of it all. Then reality crashed back, and I carefully began to extricate myself from our unintentional embrace. What time is it?" Eliza murmured, her eyes fluttering open as I shifted away. "Just after 7, I whispered, suddenly conscious of how intimate this moment felt. "Sorry if I woke you." She blinked, seeming to realize our position. Instead of jerking away as I expected, she lingered for a heartbeat longer before slowly sitting up. No, it's fine. I should check on Lily anyway. The awkwardness that had dissipated during sleep returned in full force as we both moved around the room, careful not to brush against each other, not to acknowledge what had just happened. A soft knock at the door saved us from further morning after discomfort. Mommy? Noah? Are you awake? Lily's voice called through the door. Eliza quickly ran her fingers through her tousled hair. Come in, sweetheart. The door creaked open, and both children tumbled in, Lily in her unicorn pajamas and Theo clutching his dinosaur, his hair sticking up in all directions. Grandma Eleanor says we're going apple picking today. Lily announced, bouncing onto the bed. And we can make pie and apple cider and feed the horses. Theo added, his usual shyness forgotten in his excitement. He climbed up beside me, his small hand finding mine. Can we go now, Daddy? I laughed, ruffling his hair. After breakfast, buddy. And maybe after we all get dressed? Martha's making pancakes, Lily informed us solemnly. With real maple syrup from the trees here. Grandma said to tell you to hurry before they get cold. We wouldn't want to keep Grandma Eleanor waiting, Eliza said, reaching for her robe. As she slipped it on, her eyes met mine over the children's heads. Something unspoken passed between us, acknowledgement, perhaps, that the lines were blurring faster than either of us had anticipated. The apple orchard stretched across the rolling hills behind Eleanor's estate, trees heavy with ripe fruit gleaming in the autumn sunshine. Eleanor watched from her wheelchair on the patio as Martha pushed her, a thermos of hot cider at her side. Higher, Noah. I can't reach. Theo called from beneath a particularly tall tree. I hoisted him onto my shoulders, steadying him as he stretched for a perfect red apple just beyond his grasp. Got it, he crowed triumphantly, nearly overbalancing us both in his excitement. Across the row, Eliza was helping Lily fill her basket, both of them laughing as they compared the merits of each apple. The sight of them, heads bent together, sunlight catching in their dark hair, created an ache in my chest I couldn't quite name. Your wife is quite something, Eleanor's voice came from behind me as I set Theo down with his prize. I turned to find that Martha had wheeled her closer to where we were picking. She is, I agreed, the words coming easily because they were true. Eleanor's shrewd eyes studied me. You know, when Eliza called to tell me she'd married, I didn't believe her at first. My heart stuttered. Oh. My granddaughter has always been fiercely independent. After what happened with Lily's father. She shook her head. I never thought she'd trust anyone enough to let them into her life, let alone her heart. I swallowed hard, guilt washing over me at the deception. Sometimes life surprises you. Indeed it does. Eleanor reached out, her papery hand grasping mine with surprising strength. The way you look at her, that's not something easily faked. Before I could respond, Theo came running back, saving me from having to lie directly to this perceptive woman. Daddy. Lily says there's a treehouse. Can we go see? Ask Eliza first, I said automatically, then realized how parental that sounded, how much like a real family we had become in such a short time. Eleanor smiled knowingly. Go on. I'll be fine here with Martha. The children should enjoy the treehouse while they can, it was Eliza's favorite place as a girl. I found Eliza helping the children climb the wooden ladder to an impressive structure nestled in the branches of an ancient oak. She stood below, arms half raised as if ready to catch them should they fall. Need a spotter? I asked, coming to stand beside her. She glanced at me, a strand of hair falling across her face. They're fearless. I don't remember being that brave at their age. You run a Fortune 500 company. I'd say you're pretty brave now. Her laugh was soft, almost vulnerable. Business is easy. Relationships are the scary part. Above us, the children's delighted voices echoed from the treehouse. For a moment, we stood in silence, watching them, shoulder to shoulder in the dappled sunlight. About this morning, she began hesitantly. We don't have to talk about it, I said quickly. She turned to face me fully. What if I want to? Something in her expression made my breath catch. Before I could respond, Lily called down, Mommy. Noah. You have to come up here. There's a secret compartment. The moment suspended between us, fragile and unresolved. We should. I gestured toward the ladder. Right, she nodded, but neither of us moved. Eliza, I said finally, my voice lower than I intended. This is getting complicated. A small smile touched her lips. It was always complicated, Noah. I'm just not sure it's pretend anymore. With that, she turned and began climbing the ladder to join our children, leaving me staring after her, wondering how a business arrangement had somehow become the most real thing in my life.